Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Final Star Force. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Tecmo, Final Star Force released to arcades in 1992. Fast forward to January of 2025 and it's now available as an arcade archive title for the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch. This is the obscure last entry to the Star Force series. From a technical standpoint, this isn't that great of a shoot 'em up in my opinion. It has terrible slowdown, some mediocre music, and when the enemies take damage, they flash in a way that's very distracting. And along those lines, if you happen to be photosensitive to flashing enemies, then this is both a game and a review that I recommend you avoid. But with all that said, I still have had a lot of fun with this title. It's just one that was enjoyable to sit down and play through. So let's dive into the game and you can decide for yourself if this is a title you're interested in picking up. So placing credits into the machine, one thing the game does have is it has 2-player simultaneous co-op. I don't recommend you play it that way as it introduces even more slowdown, but it's a great way to show that off, so that is how we're going to be playing the game for you today. So starting the game, we do have a relatively simple launch sequence here, and at the start of each stage you do go and see that Final Star Force with the stage title. And there's also a really weird, almost like Moo-like sound effect. So we can, right off the bat, you see both the flashing as well as the slowdown for that boss-like enemy that we encounter. So with that out of the way, let's go and start talking about what we have here for shoot 'em up. So this is your standard vertical scrolling shoot 'em up. As far as the way that it controls, we have a relatively basic shot as well as a bomb. As is typical for the arcade archive titles, it is possible to turn on auto fire. Now we'll talk a little bit about what makes the game really interesting. So one of the elements that I really do like about the game is its level up system. So at the bottom of the screen, both on the left and the right, you see a level up bar there, as well as a number indicating what level you have for your current weapon. That starts at level 1 and goes all the way up to level 8. The interesting thing is that it levels up on its own. So as time progresses, the bar will fill up, and as it fills up all the way, you will level up to a new level of the weapon itself. So you start with a base weapon, and those levels don't affect your base weapon, but once you collect the power-ups, which are called pulsators, either in flavors A, B, or C, then you'll get that power represented in that particular special weapon. In addition, if you pick up a power-up in the same letter that you already have, then you'll get an additional bomb. And the bombs are unique for each of the 3 shots that you have, or well, 4 if you count the base shot. So we're both currently running with the C power-up, which is the spray fire, and its bomb is this triple bomb, which fires 3 bombs around you. The bombs do clear the bullets on the screen and deal quite a bit of damage. But for the triple bomb in particular, and also the bomb in your base form, they are localized to just the area of effect on the screen itself. For the A bomb and the B bomb, those ones are more my preferred, but we'll wait till we actually have those power-ups to go and show those ones off, as the game seems to want to give us nothing but C's. But as I said, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's like if you get the power-up with the same letter, that does allow you to power up your weapon. So throughout the course of the game, you have a total of 10 stages, so that's actually a decent amount of gameplay here. One thing that is interesting, a couple of the stages do go and recycle the backgrounds themselves, but you have different bosses, different enemy scenarios going on, so I think it's definitely a great play as far as length. Alright, so here we have a different power-up, the B power-up, which is the wide gun. For this one, this is actually the one that I enjoy its bomb the most. It has this awesome screen hitting missile that will, like, you have all those like large missiles that sweep across the screen, dealing like damage to the enemies, clearing bullets, and I feel like it's the most effective. The last one, the A, you will have kind of a thunder laser, which will have a pulse, which will have a spark bomb that travels up the screen, and if you happen to fire at the very top of the screen, interestingly enough, it will actually wrap around and start coming up the bottom of the screen. So just a neat little feature there. So for now here, we see the boss starting to appear. This is the first time we see the boss, but in this case, it's in the water underneath us. So that effect itself is kind of neat. But the slowdown here was just passing through, firing these missiles at us is really horrendous. So if we slow down our shots, we can reduce the slowdown a little bit, but it's still present in the moment when we fire again. We once again have the same slowdown issue that I've been complaining about that's in the game. As I mentioned, it's worse 2-player than it is single-player, but it's still definitely there. There's even a setting in the Arcade Archives menu to reduce what is referring to as the sluggishness, but it only does so much. So with that is what you have for Final Star Force. So as far as the minus flavors are concerned, the biggest issue I have for the game is just the constant slowdown that you're encountering, especially with the bosses. Playing it in like 2-player, even at a higher difficulty, it kind of makes the game feel just like trivial, as it's not that hard to dodge the issues that we have with the enemies coming our way. In addition to that, there's also a problem when playing 2-player with rapid fire turned on, where it feels like the game is just eating your inputs when you're trying to use the bombs in particular. And then there's also that issue with the very distracting, flashing enemies, and it's mainly the bosses. So I really like the mech design that the game has, but because of that flashing, oftentimes it's actually very hard to make out the enemies that we're actually fighting because of the flashing. And the music, as I said, some of it's fairly mediocre. Specifically, the tracks that I feel are the worst. The boss fights aren't very interesting, and when you start a stage or when you're reset to base power, the bass music that's playing there is not that great. But on the plus flavor, the things that I really enjoy for the game itself, I really like the weapon level up system that it has. Just powering up your weapon as you play through the game itself, and having the 3 different power-ups, each with their own special unique bombs, is one of those things that kind of adds just an element of like a fun flavor to the title itself. I really like all 3 of the weapons to use. The wide is awesome, this ray gun, the thunder laser, all of it is like definitely just a blast to play with. And then we have the mech design and the background designs. So the mechs, especially the bosses themselves, I think are really interestingly designed. All the different stages and the backgrounds. I really like what they did with both the color and just the overall sci-fi theme. So it's a little bit disappointing that the game does have the technical issues it does. So at the end of the day, it's a title that I've had a lot of fun with, but it might not necessarily be for everyone. Still, if you're looking for an interesting, obscure vertical scroller to try, then maybe Final Star Force might be one that it would be up your alley. Or not, it's completely up to you. And with that, we find ourselves at the end of this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.